The Twitch stream, we going?
All right, we are live.
Great, thank you. Sorry we're a little bit late, but I am here with Ariel, Jeremy, and our special guests, Alex Iskold and Minda Brusse. They are from the 1K project that Andrew Yang has recently been tweeting about. I'm going to let you introduce yourselves.
Great. Hi, my name's Minda, and really happy to be here and join your conversation. I think that it is a really interesting time and not an area I expected to be in. My day job is pretty different than this. I am in the entrepreneurial community, so there is that crossover with what the 1K project is entrepreneurial driven effort. And so, just a little bit about me is that I've been in the tech startup scene my entire career and now have crossed over into doing investing. But this side project really came about, about 8 weeks ago. And so it's been a really interesting time to work on something project that's very different. And so it's taken me some interesting new places.
Get out just a tiny bit there. What was the number of weeks you said?
Gosh, we started April 5th.
Okay.
Oh.
Wow, yeah.
Short
all
time.
happened very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, just when it was needed. So, it's really fortunate.
Yes, absolutely. I think our urgency has been driven and our momentum has been driven by the need to fund families. And there wasn't a lot of time to wait. And so with our entire project, we really focused on building the infrastructure we needed while we were helping families, rather than sort of step back, build something, and then try and launch.
And Alex, would you care to introduce yourself as well?
Hey guys, thanks so much for having us. Yeah, so quickly on my background, I'm an engineer by training, nerd, scientist, and now 4-time founder, 2 startups, 1 venture firm, and the 1K project. And, I'm an immigrant. My family came to US in 1991, and it's been an amazing, amazing journey for me here. Lots and lots of opportunities unlocked. And during these extremely difficult times, it feels incredibly rewarding and gratifying to be able to be in a position to give back. And so, super psyched to talk to you about what we're doing with the 1K project.
That's fantastic. It's great to know you. Can I ask about your accent?
I was born in Ukraine, and the thing you guys should know about accents is as human being ages, the accent gets worse. I can tell you that. We try to keep it on topic, but it's really nice. I really just love the sound of your voice and your accent and everything. So thank you for that. But back on topic, we are all basic income advocates here. This podcast is about bridging communication gaps, figuring out how all the disparate and very nuclear as in family, not bomb, basic income advocacy movements in the world can be better friends, better collaborators. So with that in mind, let's just open the floor to everyone, anyone who would like to bring up anything about basic income, the 1K project, current events, and what we can do moving forward. Anything on your mind. So speakers and guests, please begin the conversation formal.
Hi. For those that aren't aware with the 1K project, could you talk about what you guys do and what you guys offer?
Absolutely. So just to give you guys the framework, we are really here to help people who have been impacted by the pandemic. And our concept is really simple. We took the idea of 1K a month universal basic income, but we've taken this concept and we've said, for the next few months, for the next 3 months, these people are, really unable to put on the table, unable to pay bills, unable to afford the basics. And so how can we use trusted networks and verified connections to be able to support them? And so that was the sort of the vision behind the project, connecting families in need, sponsors who can help them by giving them 1K a month for 3 months as a sort of a bridge until they can get back to their feet.
Right. And how many families have you guys supported?
We've just crossed 220 families that we've been able to help, and that amounts to close to $700,000 in sponsorships.
Wow, that is incredible. When you guys were getting this off the ground, was it hard to secure funding?
It's really interesting. As we were getting off the ground, I think Alex and I were racing against each other in a really good way. I was determined to find families that we could bring through a trusted network and really develop that side. And I said, we're going to have so many families. And he said, we're going to have so many sponsors. And so we were both racing against that. And it's been very interesting how, because we grow from the inside out as a trusted network, it actually sort of stays in check and balance. Sometimes we'll have sponsors coming in on just sort of a really frequent basis because they refer each other in as well. So as soon as you become a sponsor, you are asked to find more sponsors or find more people to refer. So we grow organically from the inside out. Same with families. So it's been a really interesting process to sort of develop both sides of this matchmaking, sort of how I see it.
Hi, my name's Faye. I just popped in. I wanted to say hi, and also, how do you guys go about finding these people?
So we have multiple channels through which we find families in need. So first and foremost, the best channel is our actual network. As Minda mentioned, we're now over 1,200 people who are sort of trusted connections, and you guys are now also part of that network. So we encourage everybody to think about one family around them, whether it's a family of a cook or a waiter or a hairstylist or a nanny, somebody around you who you can nominate. So a lot of people nominate people around them, and that's the best way. Second best way is connecting with local restaurants, salons, and we're empowering those employers to nominate people who they unfortunately had to let go or furlough due to the pandemic. That is another trusted channel for us. And lastly, we've been actively working with, various nonprofits across the country, from New York City to LA and Seattle and Boston. And there's a lot of organizations who know families who've been hurting. And so we get trusted referrals through them as well.
I'm so happy to hear that you're specifically targeting furloughed restaurant workers for help, because there are so many of them and not nearly enough support targeted specifically at them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think in general, any tipped worker is sort of a focus, whether that's a hairdresser, a barista, restaurant worker, drivers, delivery people, that sort of thing. One of the things that we focused on and what we continue to prioritize are helping people who had a income prior to, they were working and had income prior to the pandemic. As a result of the pandemic, they lost their ability to earn any income, and they were in positions that didn't really allow them to build up any buffer of savings. So they were immediately put into a really precarious position, and they were not part of the social safety net. We're more likely to be giving to food banks than using food banks. And so they were disconnected from any immediate support. And we really feel like that's a place where we could drop in and make a difference.
I also wanted to loop it back into, like, you guys are very focused on universal basic income, and it's a complex and a really important topic. The thing that really is painful to see is just how broke America is, and as we get applications from these families, it's impossible not to be heartbroken, because here's the reality. The reality is people are penniless. They do not have savings. And so when you think about a catastrophe that this pandemic is, they're simply unable to withstand it. So we're talking about people living paycheck to paycheck and not having any safety net. And when we look at this situation, it is incredibly embarrassing. And that's what we see in these applications. Single mothers, multi-dependent families. These parents are embarrassed because they've been working really hard to provide, but because they have absolutely no savings when something as horrific as this pandemic happens, simply just they're out of moves. They cannot cannot support their families.
Yeah, that hits very close to home because the people on this podcast are those people you are describing, the people who have no incomes, who have lost their incomes because of the pandemic or lost their incomes before the pandemic. I myself, I make about $100 a month, if you can believe it, and I haven't had a real formal job since the 2008 crash. Faye is she says she's a nomad in her own words. She doesn't really have a stable living environment. And Ariel's a recent college graduate. Jeremy's a machinist, but none of us are in the really privileged classes. So it's really great to bridge communication gaps. To have people like you on talk to us because you're discovering that America is so broke, and we're wondering when will the elites discover we're so broke.
And I think that's part of it, is that we want to reach out to people that are in a really safe and solid position financially, who are able to help. The challenge for them often, and what we're trying to help solve, is that they want to help people directly. They would be happy to do that, but they don't know how to do that or where to go. And they give to a nonprofit. Often that nonprofit has to go through a lot of processes and is slow. And they're like, I want to give directly. How do I do that? And maybe they find one or two people in their immediate circle who they can work with that way, but it is really challenging. So we feel like we can reduce the friction of allowing Americans to help each other. And it's something that we know they want to do. We're just making it easier. And so hopefully bridging that divide that you're talking about.
Absolutely. We are working at the same issue from different ends. We are changing the culture. We're removing the stigma from poverty, the shame. We're destroying the myth of meritocracy. We're destroying the myth of personal responsibility being the end all be all everything.
The meritocracy.
We're fixing the culture. All of us.
The biggest lie I have ever seen in my life, because it's like a lot of people were just like born in like a class where something like things weren't so hard to access. It wasn't really hard work that's about this meritocracy. It's about access and lack of access. You can have like a student in school who graduated with like C's, D's, and even F's get a wonderful job because they had a good connection with like an uncle or a parent, or they just got lucky. And you can have like a straight A student who graduates like summa cum laude or whatever the hell they call it, and still not have access to like a worthwhile job because they just don't have the network. So
it's been just taboo to talk about for forever,
Right.
That's the real change. I think it's okay.
What you guys are putting on is something that I feel really passionate about. Like what I think we need to figure out as a society is like, how do we create opportunities for people? Like that's what's missing, and I think you guys know this better than we are, because you are, first of all, much more heard and you're closer to it politically. This country is so messed up. We're all talking past each other. Nobody's hearing anybody anymore. I think the fundamental core of it is exactly what you said, which is it's about creation of opportunity, giving people opportunity to learn, be educated, and then giving them access. Right. So when you think about the 1K project, think of us as a little experiment on a much smaller scale. The country be self-organized. Can we actually bypass government systems and create something wonderful just by ourselves, right? Because think about it this way, if we can't make 1K project success, can't raise enough awareness, if we can't get enough people to donate, how can we solve this as a country where it's so corrupt and discoordinated politically? And, this country has gone, this in so many weird and strange directions. So bringing it back to what we're trying to do is a bunch of tech entrepreneurs trying to create a small experiment that I think has already been very successful in proving that there's a lot of people who want to help. So then how do we build structures to let them help, right? Then at the same time, how do we create trusted connections that we can, help families who are really hurting?
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too is being able to like find how to access these networks to even get the support, right? Like people who've never even been like needing food stamps or anything are finally having to use the system they've been contributing to. And it's kind of a humbling moment too, to actually go through the process of like receiving help.
Exactly. One of the things that we really focused on and noticed that at first is that we had the opportunity to provide a lot of privacy and discretion in how people were referred in and applied. And so one of the ways that we bring people in is we ask small business owners, of the people that you've had to furlough or let go, you probably know someone who's really in a financial crisis as a result. And can you refer those people in? And then by referring those people in and inviting them to apply, it's a very sort of like quiet behind the scenes type of support that's extended. And so we provide a lot of privacy, and the referral in, I think, comes to them from a trusted place. And so I really like that aspect of it. And helping people like who you said have not been part of the social safety net in the past, and giving them an access point for a bridge to something new.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I think if we cut through all the bureaucracy and red tape, that's where we really make progress. And I think that the people that make life really bad are the gatekeepers on both sides. The gatekeepers to getting help and the gatekeepers who keep people out of opportunities. And that has to do with like application tracking systems and like having like 4 interviews before like you get a job. I think all of that has contributed to this mess. But yeah.
So there's a culture of like wasteful usage of people's time and energy,
wasteful,
just like demonstrative, sort of kiss the ring, demonstrate that you are saying the right nice things to the right powerful people. It's all just a big performance. Yeah. It's all performative. Is that what you're saying, more or less?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
My concern is like, so we have people who, even regardless of how financially not well off they are and have been prior to this coming apart, right? We've kind of learned how to adapt to living off of less, right? But when you have a bunch of UBI advocates who are also struggling, like that gives them the motivation and drive to do it, but they're probably going to help themselves the last, right? Because they're like, I see so much more need. And like, I find myself, if I get donated money to me, like I stayed in a homeless shelter in December.
We're all trying to save Jacqueline's life like every 6 weeks because she's always running out of money, and she will always die if she doesn't get insulin. So everyone in this podcast is perpetually putting money together to save our friend's life so we can never save any to fix our own lives. But it's not her fault. It's everyone in this country has a friend like that. Everyone.
We want to put someone else before ourselves. It's hard for UBI advocates, I think, to put on their own oxygen mask first.
Why don't we together help people, you guys, and help your listeners? What are concrete steps that we can take as a group? Obviously, we have a system that can potentially help. It's not a guarantee, meaning not everybody who is nominated for the project gets sponsored, but we've gone through a lot of people and hopefully we can help. So what are the concrete steps we can take on here? Want to enable people who are your listeners, who are really hurting, right, get nominated, and so that maybe we can help.
Yeah, that sounds right. Are you saying you're going to present the concrete steps, or are you asking a question? I'm not quite sure what you meant there.
I'm trying to brainstorm this. So, like,
yeah, sure.
Do you know people? Like, so effectively, I think the first step is few of you are now in a position to nominate anyone around you who you know is really hurting, because we've now.
Well, can we nominate Jacqueline, who we are always as a group trying? I mean, here's the thing: she's not a single mother. She's 52, and she's she's disabled. She has a number of health problems. She's on disability, and she is always running out of money because her fixed income is exceeded by her very modest cost of living. She doesn't have money to buy the food she needs for her expensive diabetic diet. She doesn't have money for the drugs she needs for her Crohn's disease and her insulin. And her husband is elderly and also very infirmed. I think he's in his 70s or 70s, and they are always just not able to pay their bills. So if you could give them $1,000 a month, that'd be just fantastic. Then like, you know, when me and a couple other people from this show, I think there are like 20 of us, 20 plus of us now. When we do like a fundraiser for the show, instead of having to save the life of someone on the show, we can like buy ourselves better microphones and grow the show, you know?
Yeah.
I think the way, just to go through the steps in this, you guys distribute the show so that everybody understands how we can support you. So first of all, it's not just single mothers. It's anybody who is impacted specifically by the pandemic. And, you know, if this person's situation has worsened because of the pandemic, they're certainly eligible. Like I said, we're not able to guarantee people.
Yeah. We'll give you her information, like, you know, right after the show.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so what I want to encourage you guys to do is like go to 1kproject.org, and then you can literally nominate a family, because all of us met will connect with you offline, and you can send us your information so that we know like your full names and your emails and stuff like that. And then people who you know directly, you need to nominate through the form. It's very, very easy. And then once you nominate them, you'll be able to forward them the application, because the way the system is set up, you can't apply. That's by design. You get nominated. And so all of the people around you now are part of the system where you can nominate them, and hopefully we can help. Like, I mean, we really want to, and hopefully we'll be able to.
And in addition to nominating families, you can share it with the local businesses around you that have had to furlough employees. Let them nominate the families they know are in crisis. So every time Alex and I get the opportunity to talk to a different group of people, we always want to emphasize that there is something by engaging with our network and lighting up your network that you can actually be doing to contribute to growing this. It's not about can you sponsor a family? That's not the only way to help us grow our reach. That just by participating and nominating, making a difference in people's lives right away. And I think that that's a unique and interesting aspect of the way we operate.
Well, because I mean, when it comes to asking for help, one of the biggest things I've seen from like in the women's shelter that I met, like, you know, the women's shelter actually helped them through the process of like paperwork, and some of these people didn't have the mental health to even fill out the paperwork themselves. So for someone to nominate them and help that process along, because I think what's happening is like the system itself is quite overwhelming. And like in California, you know, the women's shelter that I stayed at, like it's closed right now because of the pandemic, and like, but the women's shelter is putting people in hotels, right? It's essentially the same thing, but you get your own room, right? Because you still have the same neighbors.
Sounds much better.
Yeah, right. I mean, I had a friend, she was still complaining, but it was like, you know, personal boundaries were getting crossed by someone else who lived there. But like, the thing is, these are women who, they understand how to survive off the system. They're still affected, but they're still rough off, you know, like they still have kids trying to survive out there. But
I hone in on what you say about it being overwhelming to ask for help, and often the hurdles are really significant and people are overwhelmed in the moment. And I think that's one of the things that our trusted referral system really helps cut through and makes it such that we can turn around and really help people quickly when we have a trusted connection that they come in through.
Yeah, it can be a lot easier to ask for help on someone else's behalf than on your own sometimes.
I think also
we should also ask for Elizabeth in this group. Another speaker on our podcast recently, I think she just lost her home and she has a family, and they're like driving around, I think, right now. She hasn't been on the show in a while. Does anyone know Elizabeth's situation? Is she stable right now? Just real quick.
I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll get to it. Just as an example, like it's, you know, 2 people out of like the 20 people on the show. Anyway, let's get back to it.
The other thing I noticed
is that, you know, I think when we frame the question of how we can help everybody, what Minda and I have discovered is that is a wrong framing of the question, because I think we want to start somewhere guess what? We already helped 220 families. Hopefully we can help the families you mentioned, and gotta start helping people one at a time, because if we ask how we help everybody, we end up helping no one. That's what's been happening. So we just want to help as many families as we can, as fast as we can, families that we're able to connect with. And you guys did an amazing job because you reached out to us, and so now we're connected, and hopefully we can, get to families.
And while I have you, thank you again for coming on. And I want to make the same offer I make to almost everybody that comes on here. If we can make content for you that will be helpful, please feel free to pitch an episode content and an episode concept to us, and we'll give it to you. You can use it promotionally to promote your project. So please stay in touch. Use this Discord server as a resource if you want to meet other UBI advocates. A lot of higher profile people have been on here, and also a ton of people you've never heard of who are very smart and capable and can help you with a lot of different stuff. So please use this as a resource. And thank you so much again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So something else I've noticed, I tend to figure out how to navigate my world using social currency. I added value to people's lives and they add value to mine, and it becomes this pay it forward thing. And so there was this person who was like, hey, if you need help, I can help you out. And I was like, no. There's this other person, they're eating a can of beans between them and their child because they just got out of domestic violence. So that person was able to give $100 to that person, right? So the person donating to this other person. So we could do it on a personal level, but not just that. What ended up happening after the fact was she finally, the person who was struggling, went on her social media, and she herself felt brave enough to be like, hey, it's hard for me to ask for help, but I'm asking for help now. And it was almost like by being the one to initiate, hey, how you doing? Here's $100. She's like, oh, yeah, I need help. And she actually did that scary step of asking for help for herself. So it kind of trickles down as you start redistributing resources. People are able to do a little more for themselves because they feel the relief, and they're like, oh, I need a bit more, but I can do more for myself if I learn how to act,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that everything we're doing is built on that experience that you just described. We're trying to pave the pathways to make that happen really fast between more people, and help as many as we can, and sort of make that model of direct giving.
And for a country like ours that has so much abundance and is so expansive, I really think that life should be about thriving and not surviving. I mean, what are we doing? It's like everybody's basics needs should be met, and then it's and it goes forward from there. Yeah, I don't know. That's just my philosophy.
Thank you again for having us.
Thank you
really
for coming.
Appreciate it.
I hope we can talk to you again sometime.
Lovely. And we look forward to having you guys now as part of the 1K Project Network. So you can bring lots of referrals and families in need in.
We'll do everything we can. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
That was great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's say goodbye, wrap it up, and we got another show in a couple hours. Who's coming on at 3, Jeremy?
We got Daniel Arizon.
Wow. Really nice people, huh? Really nice people. Everyone, they're on a tight schedule, so they had to go. But wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I was missing it. I thought I was on time, but I was a little. It doesn't matter. I'm glad I got to pop on when I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you came too. So 3:00 we got Daniel. How do you say his last name?
Arizon.
And
American Jobs Factory guy.
Yeah, he was going all.
Remind me what American Jobs Factory is.
A YouTube channel that provided a behind-the-scenes look at the Yang campaign.
Right.
Oh, cool. Okay, great.
Oh, and he was following Yang all over the country, and he was just traveling state to state to state to talk to so many people about this $1,000 a month thing. And I saw him at both of the LA rallies in person. The first time though, I didn't know who he was, but he taped me at the first rally, but that's before we knew each other. He didn't tape me personally, but the footage he managed to get, I was in there too, and that's also where I met Problem Solver Politics when I didn't even know who they were. In fact, I should reach out to them because I met them a lot of times here in LA, so maybe they can come
You should
on.
take advantage of your physical proximity. But
Right.
on that note, yeah, why don't we all give our completely physically disconnected Twitter handles and say goodbye and meet each other again in a few hours. So starting with you, Ariel.
Okay, I am Ariels_Armada on Twitter, and I am Revolutionary Thinking on YouTube.
Faye.
Hello, I'm Faye Doney. My Twitter handle is @Tisdoney, TISDONEY.
Thank you, Faye, and thank you, Ariel and Jeremy.
Hi, this is Jeremy. You can follow me on Twitter at JeremySammons1, and that is JeremySammons and the number 1.
Thank you, Jeremy, and I am at SHAELRILEY on Twitter. Stay safe. Keep fighting the good fight. Let's get that UBI. Let's get it done. And check us out again in a few hours. See you soon.